go, Mom. All right. Welcome, everybody. Here we are live. And welcome to our episode. This episode is called Soul Living is Self-Living. Soul is consciousness, unclouded sensibility. Living consciously as soul is our sense of humor, whereby we're able to take no concept seriously. When the moral and ethical rules one lives by break down tomorrow, as they inevitably will, this presents no problem to soul, capital S. The sensing of good, that is good sensing or good sensed, preserving individuality to the end. This sensing is truth, capital T, continually evolving a new what is truth, reality. Since truth is infinity. This is apparent as things which increasingly please and satisfy. These things, the felt, the sensed, inform us of the joy and satisfaction we are feeling, consciously or unconsciously. Soul, infinite sensing, is forever giving itself self-conscious identity, a perfect, joyous, harmonious body. No division of feeling, sensing into good feeling and bad feeling. The idea of soul is its identity or body. The continuous sensing of good, capital G, whether or not what is sensed as body conforms to one's belief of good. The life principle is infinite individuality. Self-living is all living. I am I, or ego, living my I-ness in my own unique way. Infinite individuality is the one growing the many for its identity. Science is truth, soul knowledge, or the energy of spirit. It is the feeling of discernment that is existence. And what is felt and seen as objects are the feelings or awareness of our infinitude. Mrs. Eddy speaks of feeling the divine energy of spirit, bringing us into newness of life. Science exchanges the objects of sense for ideas of soul. There is no possible way this could be done. No technique could evolve for such an exchange if ideas of soul were not the objects of sense. We can't deny the reality of our personal identity, the objects of sense, without denying the mind, capital M, that is the reason or principle for their existence. The reality which we apparently experience as if it were existing external to ourselves is what we are feeling in our soul, the withinness of consciousness. Words get in the way, so I repeat, I does not feel, I is the feeling. I does not acknowledge or sense the good. Good is the sensing or acknowledgement that is I. All of that was taken to Christian Science from Christian Science Re-Explored, pages 121 and 122, and that was written by Margaret Laird. Welcome, Betty. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Anything you want to add to what we're going to be exploring in Soul Living is Self-Living?
Well, I felt like there should be a few more comments about infinity. Like
Okay.
soul is infinity expressed, and truth is infinity expressed. And infinity means no duplication, no stopping, always fresh, original, totally unknown up to that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what infinity is about. And that's what God, truth, love, life, etc., is about. It never repeats itself. You know, take a look at where you're standing when you say, I'm bored. Or, oh, come on, let's do something more exciting. Or, I don't really like this. Or, oh, this is better than it was yesterday. All of those things that the baggage really that we attach to every experience of living. Human beings do that. Scientists do not.
Okay. Until we do, and then we catch ourselves. All right. Anyways, I wanted to welcome all of you here to viewing and participating. So you can enter into the comments. And if you're live with us, we will bring those into the conversation. We welcome all participation. And we are sponsored by the Institute of Metaphysical Science. And you can support our live stream by making a donation to the Institute. That would be great. And we do these every week or every other week or twice a month. We're trying to do that. So that is our goal. There's over 186 episodes that you can check out and listen to. So that's pretty cool. All right. Huh?
I'm not a tech person. Where are those?
They're all on YouTube, Mom.
They're on YouTube. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So here we go. In Christian Science Re-Explored on page 123, Margaret Laird wrote, "We have comfort and health from science only by being the science, the discernment of spiritual facts." And science is not a system of reform, nor can we lean upon it for comfort and health.
Right.
Anything more you want to say about that?
Yeah, if you're not paying attention, if you're not coming from the science point of view, your experience is different. Where you're standing is what you're experiencing. If you don't like it, take a look at where you're standing. If you like it, make note of where you're standing.
Right. When you say where you're standing, just break that down a little bit. Just unpack that whole phrase, where you're standing.
What's giving me the point of view that I have?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm standing.
Okay.
Meaning mental awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Not talking about where your feet are.
Right.
I'm talking about where you're present, what you're present to.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right. And Mary Baker Eddy said it this way in Science and Health on page 155, starting on line 3. She said, "When the sick recover by the use of drugs, it is the law of a general belief culminating in individual faith which heals."
Yep.
So unpack that a little bit.
Well, people, have a headache, they take an asprin, and the headache disappears.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a very temporary relief process.
Right.
The headache isn't gone. It's simply subdued for a while. What has it gone is not being there in the first place.
Okay. So when she says, when the sick recover by the use of drugs, it is the law of a general belief.
Right.
Culminating in individual faith, which heals.
Yeah, faith is always something that's going to occur tomorrow. Not right now, but later.
But she's saying it's effective. She's saying which heals.
Yeah, but it's not long-standing. Faith is not anything that's going to hold you in good stead for very long.
Right. So the current discomfort may be healed, but the propensity for disease to be present still there.
Right there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Very good. According to this faith, will the effect be?
Yeah.
And that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
If you believe it's the pill that you took or whatever that relieved your symptoms, then the propensity to be ill has not been resolved.
Right.
Okay.
That's a kind of a tricky thing there. I can just hear Mrs. Laird talking about it in my head because it isn't that it isn't belief. Faith is a little different. It's what you have faith in. That's a belief. If understanding is present, faith will be in that. And that has its outlook.
Right.
The discernment of spiritual facts, which is what the scientist has to work with, gives you a whole different place to stand.
Yeah.
And so the looking to the next hour, the next day, the next month, the next year, all of that stuff is out there as faith, because faith is not present right now.
Right.
Faith is always down the road a bit.
Okay.
See, what I know is present now. What I believe about it, have faith about it in, is always just beyond my reach.
Right.
It's like I'm projecting something that is possible, and my faith says it's real. But of course, only now has reality.
Right.
Faith has no reality. It's always out there somewhere. But
Right.
the only thing that's real is now.
And there's only right now, right now, right now, right now.
Yes. And there's no faith in right now, because faith doesn't exist right now. Faith
Right.
is
So,
down the road.
right. So if I follow what you're thinking, then if you're present with the facts of being, perfection functioning right now, all infinite mind, that's a right now clarity that
That's
has
right.
nothing to do with faith.
Right.
And that leaves you with an entirely different experience of living.
Yes. And the functioning of faith is helpful as you go along, as you come up with your discernment of facts. But the truth of the matter is that reality is always and only now.
Mm-hmm.
It has no faith. It has no tomorrow.
Right.
It has no yesterday.
Right.
It's right now, right now, right now, right now. God being, right now.
Right.
It's a good point to consider.
Yes. Okay. Very good. And in Mind is the Athlete on page 188, you put it this way: we rejoice in the knowledge that the one and only body is soul, capital S.
Yep. We rejoice in that knowledge. If you don't have that knowledge, you need to get busy with yourself, because
What
that
does
knowledge,
that mean? What does that mean to get busy with yourself?
take a look at where you're standing.
Okay.
What am I believing, wishing,
Mhm.
thinking about? What do I know?
Right.
There's a distinction. And faith is the first one. And what do I know is where I'm standing. So I'm either standing with myself, or I'm having the faith that I will be standing
Mhm.
in the facts.
Okay.
There's a real distinction there, and I'm not sure I'm making it very clear.
Yeah, no, we'll just keep working it. And if you guys aren't clear out there, then just put a comment in. Let's discuss, right? So
Right.
what are you guys seeing? What questions do you have? Drop a comment in. Let us engage with that.
Yep.
And then you go on to say conscious thought, the sensing of good in and as every organ.
Well, that's the continuation of the sentence you started. We rejoice in the knowledge that the one and only body is soul, conscious thought, the sensing of good in and as every organ.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we look at ourselves and we think, oh, arms, legs, hair, nose, feet, as if they were something external to our mind.
Right.
But if we were not conscious, none of that would be present for us.
Right.
It requires me to be conscious, to be aware. And awareness is always God present.
Right.
There's only one mind,
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Margaret Laird says in Christian Science Re-Explored on page 123, science is a vision that enables us to give up the habit of outlining or trying to conjure up good.
Yep.
And it seems to me that when you're talking about being present to the facts of being, science then is the vision, being clear about the facts of being. All is infinite mind and its infinite manifestation. So that's the vision that enables us to give up the habit of outlining or trying to conjure up good, which is our own human perception of what it should be. And then we get busy about rearranging the furniture of the circumstances of our life. And that has nothing to do with science or practicing science and having science as your vision.
Yeah. And your effectiveness in living as a scientist shows up every day. And it shows up with things being orderly, being timely, being appropriate.
Well, what if you don't view them that way, but they are? You know what I mean? Like, I get all that. Then you're like, but wait, my life looks the way it looks. And it might be disorderly. There might be a swift kick in the you-know-what. There might be something getting my attention. There could be, there's any number of things. And yet you can, at any moment, you can actually acknowledge the facts of being and step into and be present in a whole different way. Right?
Yes. And what gives you the presence?
Acknowledgement of the facts.
Right. So it's all present. How am I seeing myself?
Right. So then I do whatever I do.
Myself.
Sorry, go ahead.
How am I living myself? Is this soul living or sense living?
Right. Right. So sense living would be personal belief.
Yeah. Point of view.
Yeah.
Reality is the only thing present. So if I'm living my point of view of reality, it's not reality, it's my point of view.
Right.
Which I wouldn't have if nothing was present. So reality is there.
So as soon as I give up and I acknowledge the facts of being, I give up that particular point of view. Or I just allow that point of view to be.
That's right. You allow it to be, since what's present is reality, regardless of my point of view.
Right.
So I don't want to do away with what's present. I want to let go of my point of view.
Okay. All right.
And how do we let go of it?
We acknowledge facts of being.
That's right. That's
and
right.
We also have a willingness to allow things to just be the way they are.
It's like looking at 2 and 2 is 5. And the fact tells me that 2 and 2 is 4. And I'm willing to be present to 2 and 2 is 4. And I don't do a thing with the 2 and 2 is 5. Why?
Because it doesn't exist.
No, and the effort to erase it impresses it.
Right. It's what you resist persists.
That's right. So I leave it alone and say, 2 and 2 is 4, on we go.
Right. So what Margaret Laird said is we learn to let our good feeling evolve its own form or information, since we can't possibly know what language will best identify our divinity, our good, and we don't. It's what shows up is the only way we can see the one reality that's present. It's what shows up for us.
Yeah, and you don't have any language without reality present.
Right. Well, nothing. You have nothing if no reality is present.
That's right. You're not present either.
Exactly. Right.
So the fact that I consciously am has me on good soil right away.
Right. Okay. All right. I get you. Okay. And in Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy on page 162, and you didn't give me a line number, but on page 162 says it this way: science brings to the body the sunlight of truth, which invigorates and purifies. And that's that sense of acknowledging the oneness of being, acknowledging the facts of being is freeing. And that's invigorating and purifying. Is that basically what is being said here?
Well, it's saying leave the language alone.
Right.
That's primarily what it's addressing.
Okay. All right.
And we can do that only when we are really confident that reality is present.
Yeah.
So my point of view is not valid.
Right.
Why would I lean on that?
Exactly.
I would be willing to leave it alone.
Yeah.
And the willingness to leave it alone is an acknowledgement that reality is present.
Right. Right.
And the thing we do is we think that there is a better way to be, and we figured out what that looks like, and that's the way it should look.
Right.
And then we fuss around because it doesn't look that way,
Right.
or things get worse. Do you know?
Yes.
So the point of what Mrs. Eddy is saying is you have to be willing, really, to leave it alone. Leave that basis of belief alone
Right.
and stay with the fact. Margaret used to say this. I don't know why it looks that way, but all is infinite mind. On we go.
Right. Right.
And then she'd say, I don't know why it looks that way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Margaret Laird said science acts as an alterative.
An alterative.
Yeah. This is Mary Baker Eddy saying science acts as an alterative, neutralizing the error with truth.
Yeah. And neutralizing the error is a dressy phrase for leave it alone.
Right. Okay.
I don't have to process the error.
Right. I've just neutralized it.
Just leave it alone.
Right. I got it.
It is neutralized if you aren't paying attention to it.
Right. Because you're just allowing it to be. I'm walking on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then in your book on page 188, you say healing and metaphysical science is the comprehension of divine facts. It's just basically the acknowledgement of that,
That's right.
the understanding that all is infinite mind.
You know, I had an experience with someone that called for help, having trouble acknowledging the divine facts.
Mm-hmm.
And we discussed it back and forth a few times, and she remarked that she wasn't sure that it made any difference. And I said, well, let me hear you acknowledge a fact, any divine fact. And she thought about it and said, well, I don't really know any, do I? I said, well, how long have you been around science? Oh, well, she was raised in it. Oh, well, give me one fact. And she thought about it, and I just sat there. And finally she said, all is infinite mind. I said, yes, on we go. Why? Since it's all infinite mind, what difference does it make what you do?
Right.
Oh. So don't play games with yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Facts live in the acknowledgement of the facts, and this is our body.
Yeah, and the acknowledgement of those facts, you see, is what's present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if all is infinite mind or infinite soul, in the case of today's talk, there's no place to go.
Right.
You're home free at the beginning.
Right. Right. And then we just make it hard on ourselves.
Yep.
All right. In Christian Science Re-Explored on page 121, Margaret Laird wrote, that which hides the good or clouds the vision is the belief of good that makes evil a necessity for its identity. So we make all the evil we make it all up, good or evil, the labels.
Yep. Well, you make all of it up. You're
right. Now I'm reminded of nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Yeah. Nothing exists good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Right.
It it exists exactly the way you say.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times Margaret Laird would listen to me and she'd say, if you say so.
Right.
Oh, and I would get all shook up.
Right.
I said, well, I'm just trying to. And she said, I know, if you say so. What are you going to say now? I said, all's in mind. She says, good, on we go.
Right. It reminds me of the story about the umpires. You got the beginning umpire and you say, well, how do you how do you know what to call? Well, I call it the way it is. And then it gets to the the mid-level umpire. The mid-level umpire says, well, I call it the way I see it. And then you get to the master umpire. And the master umpire says, it ain't nothing till I call it.
And that's the way we live.
I know.
And in ignorance, we ignore that.
Right. Right. Okay.
It ain't nothing till I call it.
That's right. The concept of health as it gives up to health, capital H, is the sickness.
Yep.
So we have a concept of health and what it looks like.
Read that slowly again.
The concept of health as it gives up to health, capital H, is the sickness.
Yeah. The concept as it gives up. And you find with capital H health, the sickness was the concept. When you give that up, you got no problem.
Right. Yeah, because you're just allowing everything to be. It's just what it is. And then it can just move on.
It never was, so it doesn't go anywhere.
It just disappears. As never was.
That's right. It had no substance to begin with.
Got it. I got it.
I stopped counting on it.
Right.
When I make a statement of fact, I've given up the fiction.
Right. Yeah. Okay. In Science and Health on page 162, start on line 9, Mary Baker Eddy wrote, the effect of this science is to stir the human mind to a change of base on which it may yield to the harmony of the divine mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole thing, is just give up the concept, give up your judgments, opinions, resentments, all that stuff, all the stuff you have going on about living, about the circumstances, about all of it. If we give that up and stand in the facts of being, that is a change of base.
Yep.
It's a change in where you're standing.
Yep.
And there's infinite amounts of freedom there.
The thing that I like to drop is the use of the word change. Nothing ever changes.
Right.
Perfection present is the reality of all being.
Right. I'm just saying where you're standing.
I know.
I could see that if I did that, I would say, well, I just shifted my stand or whatever that is, but it's a change of attention, I guess. Or read, you know what I mean? Like, so I could see where it works either way. Yeah.
Perception is reception.
Mm-hmm.
So when I straighten out my perception, I've got no problems.
Right. Make my own peanut butter sandwiches.
Right. Because we do.
Exactly. All right. And then the indestructible faculties of spirit, capital S, exist without the conditions of matter.
Yep. Indestructible faculties of spirit. That's what's going on. Indestructible, inexhaustible, unchangeable.
Right.
Perfection present. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
And anytime I can drop my other stuff and stand in what's already present, takes no effort, doesn't require any particular way to be. It's just standing in the fact.
Right.
And letting the picture alone.
Yeah.
The pictures are just points of view. So they don't have any substance to begin with. When you leave them alone, they're gone.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And in Mind is the Athlete on page 189, you wrote, consciousness is all there is.
Yes.
There
Keep
is
going.
no objective reality.
Think of
That may
that.
be the way it looks. It is not the way it is.
Yep.
Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, I love the word objective because it's another way of saying reality is subjective.
Yes.
It's all the way you're being. It's the way you're living yourself. Soul living or not.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's right.
And the thing is, soul living is like being present. Not is doesn't exist, so you're in Never Never Land.
Right. So soul living is the acknowledgement of facts,
That's
the
right.
freedom that's present when you're true to who you be.
That's right. And
And the rest is all just a distraction.
The picture is a point of view that has no substance.
Right. I'm saying it's a distraction.
If you say so.
Yep. But I get it. It's just you go off and that's where you would say Never Never Land.
Yep.
Yeah, very good. All right. Any other questions, any other things you want to add?
Nope.
Okay. Well, this is it for this episode. So hopefully you found this valuable. If you do, we'd love a thumbs up or a heart, whatever that is. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, we would love to have you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you actually get your notifications when we're going to go live, just in case, like today, the email didn't go out to people. So whatever that is, that's what we would love. If you want to do that, it helps us spread the word and have other people join us in this conversation as well. So until next time, we will be on next week, same time, same channel. We'll be on, and then we'll be off for 2 weeks following that. So make sure you hit here next week, and we'll have another exploration and conversation. So until then, keep it going, acknowledge the facts of being, or notice all your judgments and opinions and everything else that's spinning around in there until you decide, wow, let's just be scientists after all. So on we go. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, thanks, Mama.